Welcome back. You got it right. Good health is achievable through health behavior. In this part of the lecture, we are going to talk about how we can modify the health behavior with the help of psychological theories and techniques. Before we talk about psychological theories and technique, it will be helpful to understand the different point of view of people regarding the health promotions. The policymakers and people working in the community believes that we can promote the health by creating an awareness among the public regarding the poor health habits. For an example, the advertisement that comes in the theater just before the screening of the movie, which says that consumption of the khaini, gutka, tambhaku can lead to the cancer. So what are they emphasizing? They are emphasizing that consumption of this substance is injurious to the health and it could be a life-threatening as well. Doctors, they believe that they can promote the health by helping the people to develop healthy lifestyle. Imagine you go and meet a doctor and doctor do the routine screening and he finds that yes, there is a family history of chronic diseases which includes diabetes or cancer or hypertension. So what he'll advise? He'll advise you to manage your weight, manage the consumptions of certain things like if you are at the risk of the diabetes, you need to control your sugar. If you at the risk of the hypertension, you need to control the consumptions of the salt. If you are at the risk of the cardiovascular heart disease, then the food that are high on the fats need to be controlled. Okay, how does the health psychologist look after the the health promotions? They believe that we can promote the health by developing the interventions where we can engage the people into positive health behavior. As an individual, if I really need to think about my health or my well-being, then I'll say that okay, I can design a program where I engage myself into health promoting behavior. Now, there are a number of benefits involved in the health promotions. When we promote the health, the chances are that the death due to the chronic lifestyle related diseases could be less. Not only that, the lifespan of the people can increase, and further that lifespan will be disease free lifespan, so everybody can enjoy that. And the amount of money that we spend, $1 billion of money the government that spent in the treatment of the people could get saved. So before we talk about the intervention, we need to understand what are the factors that affects the health behavior. The very first factor is related to demographical factors. It was found by the researchers that the people, those who are better educated, those people are less stressful, those who are having a good health, good social support, are more likely to follow a good health habits or the health promotional behavior. On the other hand, the people, those who are illiterate, as we've seen, the people, those who are working under stress, those who do not have a control over their work, are more likely to follow a poor health habits. It was also found that health behavior is related to the personal values or the cultural values as well. As an individual, if I value my health more and if I think that I need to be more attractive and healthy at the same time, yes, that's going to encourage me to eat right food and in the right amount and do the exercise on a regular basis. Okay, but that is also related to the cultural value as well. If the culture expects the female to exercise on a regular basis, then only the female are more likely to exercise. If the culture does not allow the female to participate in the exercises, then you'll see that the female's representation in the sports may go down. Third thing is related to the personal control. Now the question comes, what the person believes about his health, who's control his health. There could be three possibilities. A person believes that okay, he has a control over his own health, or he believes that I cannot control my health, my doctor and my family members only can control my health. So they believe that the control of the health is not in their hand, rather it's in the hand of the other people. The third possibility is that okay, it's not in the either hand of my parents nor in my hand. So it's by chance. Now it is found that the people, those who believe that they can control their health, those who have a good personal control, they are more likely to follow the good health habits than the people, those who believe that doctor or the family member can control their health by modifying the medicines or modifying their diets, or the people, those who completely rely on chance factor, the destiny. Next factor that determine the participation in the health behavior is the accessibility to the healthcare system. Now, if the people have accessibility to the healthcare system, they are going to do the routine checkups. They are going to make sure that if they are at the risk of any diseases, like for an example, if they are suffering from the cold, they have a fever and a dry cough, okay, that could be have a similar symptoms like COVID-19 infections. So person can go and get himself checked. That is only possible when they have access to the healthcare system. Last thing is that perceived symptom. People believe that when they can recognize the symptoms in them, they can modify their behavior. For an example, a person who's drinking will not stop drinking or will not consider drinking as a problematic behavior unless and until he sees some negative symptoms or negative consequences of it. Imagine that a person drinks and immediately he had a vomiting and he see that the blood's coming out of the body, then he may get scared, like, okay, oh my god, what is happening? I had a good quota, I used to digest that particular amount of alcohol for a long time, but now what happened to my stomach? Means how that blood came out. And that could be a symptom, a trigger that can encourage the persons to modify his or her behavior. Now let's talk about some barriers that prevents the people from modifying their poor health habits. We can classify them into two groups. One are related to our emotions, another are related to health behavior. It was found that emotions can perpetuate the unhealthy behavior. Means it's keep maintaining a healthy behavior. For an example, if a person is continuously under stress, they are more likely to smoke and drink. Or particularly in a female, it was found that whenever they are under stress, they are more likely to consume fatty foods, other foods that increase their fats, like chocolates or chips. It is found that if people when they get emotional, they think that okay, they are the threat is less relevant to them. Means they feel that they're not going to get affected by a particular disease. Okay, and if the fear increases too much, that can lead to the defensiveness in the people. For an example, people may say that okay, you give me an example like smoking leads to a cancer, alcohol leads to a cancer, but you give me an example of the people, those who have a cancer and those who used to smoke or those who used to drink. I can give multiple examples. On the other hand, those who are smoking, those who are drinking alcohol, but still they are healthy, they don't have any health issues. So what is happening? They became defensive. They try to defend their behavior because you created too much of fear in them, like okay, smoking and drinking can lead to a cancer and can take your life. So extreme fear can sometimes actually make the intervention program ineffective. Okay, or due to the emotional instability, the people can continue engaging into the risky behavior. Now let's talk about the next factor, that is instability of the health behavior, which keep affecting our efforts to modify the poor health habits. Now why instability is there in the health behavior? Very first thing is that there is a link between health behavior, but that link is not so strong. Means it may be possible that person may going and attending a gym and doing an exercise on a regular basis, but he may be also consuming alcohol, or he may be a smoker. So he is engaging into a good health habit and he is also engaging in a poor health habit. So there is no link like what we could assume. And second is that the health habits are completely unstable. Means it may be possible that a person starts drinking, it's become chronic, and there will be a period when he decided to leave the drinking and he live his life, sober life for some period of time, for an example for a few days or for a month or for a year, and later on he get relapse and he starts consuming the alcohol again. So what happens? We see that instability in the behavior. Now what are the reasons for the instability in the behavior? The very first thing, that the different factors affects the different health habits. For an example, a person may start drinking because of the stress, or a person may start going and attending a gym because he wanted to avoid teasing, because the people used to tease him being overweight, or a person is smoking the cigarette to look more appealing to the others. Okay, Similarly, the another cause for the instability in the healthy behavior is like a different different factors influence the different same health habits in the different people. Let's take an example again of drinking. Okay, one person may start drinking because of the peer pressure, another person may start drinking because it gives them a good high, a third person may have start drinking because it helps them to cope with the stress. Okay, so the reasons for the beginning and maintenance of the poor health behavior like alcohol consumptions could be different among the different people. And the last thing is that health, the different factors that controls the poor health behavior can change across the lifespan. For an example, one person might have started drinking an alcohol in the pressure of the friend due to the peer pressure, but the peer pressure is not going to be with them throughout their life. Like when they change their place, when they go to the new place, or when they grow younger, it may be possible that the peer pressure will not be though influential to maintaining the poor health habits. Now, let's see how we can try to modify the poor health behavior. The first thing is teachable movement. Teachable movements emphasize that some time is more effective than the other times in modifying the health behavior. For an example, if we need to encourage the people to quit the smoking. Now, what is the right time to help the people to quit the smoking? If we engage a class, if we organize a workshop and we talk about, okay, what are the ill effects of smoking, that's not going to work. But rather, there is one simple experiment that is being done, like when the people go for, buying the cigarettes, and when they try to burn it, there is an electronic message or pre-recorded message comes like Ram Naam Satya Hai, Ram Naam Satya Hai. So what happens whenever they try to go and burn the cigarettes and they listen to these songs, that gets associated with the death, and that can prevent them from smoking the cigarettes. So the teachable movement is the one which can lead to a more effective desirable effect. Okay, now we need to understand that when the people are receptive in that situation, we can give a good effective message to them. Okay, for an example, if people are doing a party and they are celebrating some birthday or some anniversaries, in that duration we can catch the attention of the people, and then we can give a good message regarding the health behavior. For an example, related to SMS in context with the COVID-19 again means maintaining a social distancing, wearing a mask, and using a sanitizer. Okay, so this thing can be easily taught to the people when they are receptive. For that, we need to identify a good time when we can interact with them. Another thing is fear appeal. Means this technique believes that we can modify the health behavior by increasing the fear among the people. Means, for an example, when people become aware about the ill effect of their health habits, and they develop a fear that okay, it can be detrimental to their health and they may die, there are the chances that they can quit that habits. For an example, it was found that many people, those who drink, and when they start having omitting of the blood, they realize that now it could go even further dangerous and they may lose their life. So in that context, we can create an anxiety in the people, and with that anxiety, with that fear, we can help the people to quit the poor health habits. But again, there is a red flag. Means if we actually induce too much of fear in the people say, marna to hai na ek din, so aaj mare ya kal mare, what is the difference? So we need to make sure that we will not induce too extreme anxiety or the fear in the students when we are trying to motivate them to quit the poor health behavior. Okay, another technique called educational appeal. Educational appeal means we need to create an awareness among the people regarding the health habits. Okay, means that could be possible by sending some message to the audience. So we need to effectively design a message, and equally effectively we have to take that message to the audience. Now, how we can do that? There are certain characteristics for the effective message which has a persuasive characteristics, means which can modify, which have a potentials to modify the beliefs and the behavior of target audience. Now, how we can design such effective message? So let's understand. We need to design a message which is colorful and vivid. Let's again go back to the earlier example of screening of a video related to addictions just before the screening of the movie. It's a movie where you see that the cancer is coming out of the mouth, the tumor is coming out of the mouth, it's completely visible, it's not looking though attractive. Okay, people may feel like disgusting by looking at that scene. So this is clear, this is vivid, rather than emphasizing on the fact like how many people died with the cancer caused due to the smoking. Okay, we need to make sure that the message is short, clear and direct. Like as I said, SMS. You want to protect yourself from the COVID-19 infection, so you need to use the social distancing, you need to use the mask, and you need to do the proper hand hygiene, wash your hands with the sanitizers or soap. And most important thing is that the most important argument should come in the beginning or at the end, not in the middle. See, understand, people have a tendency to pay attention more to the beginning part of the things and the last part of the things. You might have seen these habits in the people, those who read the newspaper. People read the headlines or the first para of the news and the last para of the news. This is the thing which is more important rather than the mid part, which describes the event or elaborates the event, right? So to make the message more effective, we need to make sure that the important thing should come either in the beginning or at the end. Let's take an example, like people says that okay, people below the age of 10 or people above the age of 65 are at the risk of the death due to the COVID-19 infection. But here we are ignoring important fact that it can infect anyone. Like the youth also is at the risk of infection due to the COVID-19 virus. So we need to emphasize that it's not the age that determines who will get infected. Every one of us is at the risk of being infected with the COVID-19 virus. Okay, now we need to send an extreme messages. Extreme messages in the sense like unless and until you lose your weight, you're going to die. For an example, in one of the interview by Adnan Sani, he said that when he was obese and he was went to a doctor advised him like, abhi waqt hai, if you reduce your weight, that's okay, otherwise you don't have much time left in your life. So that extreme message create a motivation in people to modify their behavior. Okay, now we need to understand that message is good, but the effectiveness of the message is also depend upon who is conveying that message. For an example, researchers found that if the message is conveyed by the expert, like in case of the health, the expert could be the doctor, the dietitian, or in case of the exercise, the health experts could be the sports person, a physical director, or sports physio. Okay, a person are more likely to receive a message coming from the trustworthy person or a prestigious figure, like a message given by celebrities, a message given by whom we trust more, like a teachers, will be more effective than the message given by an unfamiliar person. One important thing is that message is becoming more influential when it is delivered by the people of the same age group. For an example, rather than teachers go and talk about poor health habits like smoking and drinking, if a person, a peer group person, a person from the students come and go and talk about this, can improve their health rather than the interactions by the teacher with them. Another thing, like when we are framing a message or sending a message to the audience, we need to consider the audience characteristics as well. Means, are they really receptive or are they not? So, if the people are receptive, then we can simply emphasize the beneficial aspect of it. Like for an example, okay, when the people are receptive regarding the COVID-19 infection, I will say that, Acha, if you detect it early, it may possible that you can get cured and you can have a healthy life after that. Or if the people are not though receptive, then we need to frame a message in such a way that we can cover both the sides. Okay, both the sides, positive and the negative aspect as well. So what will happen if you don't detect the early signs of infection? What are the positive signs, positive consequences? What are the negative consequences? And then we can try to convince the people to quit that thing. For example, we can take an example of alcohol. Okay, so let's say person is reluctant to change his habits. So what we'll say, acha, you like consuming an alcohol because it makes you cool, right, dude? It really helps you feel good. Now it makes you more attractive, appealing. It gives you a lot of admiration from the colleagues. That's really good. But have you ever heard like people consume alcohol and what happens to them in the later part of the life? Means the effect of consuming alcohol will not be detrimental immediately after consumption, but they may get worse as the habits gets worse. Right? So this is how we can frame a message for the target population when those who are drinking. Now we need to also understand another characteristic of the audience, like are they promotional oriented or are they avoidance oriented? Promotional oriented means those who are very caring about their health and themselves. So if the people are very worried and careful about their health, we'll say that acha, you can look after your health properly when you are not overweight, when you take a right diet, when you do the exercises, when you engage yourself in the yoga or meditation. So whenever you are interacting with the people, those who are promotional oriented, try to maximize the benefits. Okay, and when you are interacting with the avoidance oriented people, then we need to emphasize more on the negative aspects. For an example, like what we teachers do, like acha, a person who's not studying, there could be a two possibility to encourage them to study. Either if you don't study, you're going to fail. Like, so to avoid the failure, the students is going to study. Or you study, then you can score good marks. Okay, so those who are the growth oriented will get encouraged by the message like, okay, if I modify my study, I have a chance to score good marks. And a person who has a fear of failure will say that, okay, if I now modify my health study behavior, there's a good chance that I may not get failed. Then we also need to keep the goals in mind. Like, what is the goal that we are targeting in? Illness detection behavior, if it is our goal, then we need to talk about the problem behavior. What could be the problem? Like, imagine like we want that people should detect the early signs of COVID-19 infection, and they should not wait at their home and doing the home remedies, because that may lead to contamination or that may lead to infections to the other family members as well. So here we are going to talk about the problem if people do not take timely medical help. Like, they may contaminate the loved one, or they may put their life at the risk, for which they may need to go to the hospital, which may cause financial loss as well. Or the goal is promotion of the health. When the goal is to the promotion of the health, then we'll emphasize the positive aspect, like what are the benefits of consuming vegetables or the fruits. Then we can emphasize, like, for every fruits what benefits are there. Like, for an example, when we go for the citrus fruits, that actually help us to boost our immune system. Fruits that are high in vitamin C can prevent or protect us from developing the diseases like cancer. Another model that we can use to modify health behavior is the health belief model. Means all of us hold some beliefs regarding our health. Now, this proponent of this model believes that we can modify the health behavior by modifying the beliefs that we hold for our health. These beliefs grouped into two classes. One is related to belief regarding the health threat, and another belief is related to a specific behavior and how it's effective to deal with the threat caused by the poor health habits. So let's take an example of the beliefs related to the health threat. So that could be grouped into three categories. One thing related to general health belief means people vary in terms of the value that they assign to their health. Some people assign good value to their health. They are very concerned. They do the regular screening. They go and visit a doctor on a regular basis. Okay, they eat healthy foods, they do the yoga, gym. Okay, but some people are reluctant. They don't engage themselves in the positive health behavior. They are less concerned about their health. Okay, so people believes that okay यार चल जो भी है ऊपर वाले के हाथ में है ना, उसी ने ही पैदा किया वही मानने वाला है. So they believe that health is not in their hand, it's in the hand of God or the other people. Then belief related to the vulnerability of the specific disease or the disorder, like what are the chances that I may get diabetes, hypertension, or cardiovascular heart disease, or arthritis, or any psychological issues. Okay, we may hold a belief regarding that as well. And we also hold a belief like what could be the consequences if we have that disease or disability or disorder. Again, when we go to the belief related to the specific behavior that has a potential to affect the threat caused by poor health habits, so that could be clustered into two groups. One is that how effective that behavior is in reducing the threat, and what are the benefits of modifying the behavior exceed the threat caused by the poor health habits. For an example, let's take an example of the smoker. If the smoker holds a belief that okay, I am the one who concerned about my health, I want to be healthy, but because I'm smoking, I'm at the risk of lung cancer, and I know that lung cancer is threatening, it can take my life. At the same time, he believes that okay, if I quit smoking, though it's hard, if I quit smoking, okay, it may possible that I may not get diagnosed with a lung cancer, so I can prevent the cancer from happening. But the question comes, does that change in the specific behavior, like quitting the smoking, has a more benefit than engaging into a smoking behavior? Generally, it is found that people relapse because they find it difficult to cope with the withdrawn behavior, like irritability, sleeplessness, okay, and restlessness which is there, which makes them go back to the poor health habits again. So by modifying the beliefs, we can modify the health behavior. Next theory is self-determination theory, which believes that people are motivated to pursue their goal. There are two important components in this theory. One is autonomous motivation, and another is perceived competence. Autonomous motivation means they believe that the persons believe that they are motivated, they have a freedom to take a decision, or they have a freedom to make a choices. So for an example, a person goes and consult a doctor regarding the obesity related problems or diet related problems, and the doctor advises the diets, but the person believes that he cannot control that. He does not have a control over it because the doctor is advising it. If the suggestions comes from another person, then they are less likely to follow that thing. But if the motivation comes from inside, like, oh, if I don't change my diet now, or if I don't go for the exercise now, okay, it may increase the risk for me. So the motivation, when it comes from inside, the people are more likely to engage into positive behavior. But engaging into positive behavior is the one thing, but do they have a competency in engaging in healthy behavior? Means what belief the people hold about their own competency regarding changing the health behavior. If the people hold that okay, I can tolerate the craving, I can spend my days or months together without going back to the smoking or alcohol or eating unhealthy food, then it's more likely that they can bring changes into their health habits. Okay, and there are so many techniques that are grouped under the name of cognitive behavior approach, where we simply focus on the cognitions of the people, because we believe that what we think influence our behavior and our feeling. There are different techniques. Let's start with very first thing is a self-monitoring. Self-monitoring means we need to observe our behavior, when, how, and what we are doing. For an example of drinking again, I worked with the clients when I asked him to do this exercise of self-monitoring and make a record sheet regarding how frequently he's drinking, where he's drinking, what he's drinking, what he's doing along with he is drinking, what are the antecedents and the consequences. Okay, so what he found that he is drinking alcohol. He purchased the alcohol from a specific shop. He drinks the alcohol in the nights. He doesn't drink with a friend. He generally drinks alone, and he prefers to drink in the home rather than in the hotel. He prefers not to drink when the daughter is along with him. Okay, so all these self-monitoring exercises can help us to plan an intervention by modifying the stimulus. So stimulus control is very important thing. The same person reported that he preferred the soft drink and the chicken while he is drinking. So when I asked him to modify certain stimulus in his environment, like don't keep the soft drink in the fridge, don't keep the chicken in the fridge, and whenever you have an urge, try to spend time with the daughter. That was though to reduce the frequency of the consumption of the alcohol for him. So the exercises like stimulus modification can help in modification of the poor health belief. Self-control is very important, because if we cannot control our health behavior, then we cannot sustain it. To make it sustainable change, we need to give positive reinforcement to ourselves. For example, if I go without fat diet for a week span, then I should praise myself, I should reward myself by allowing me to do things that I like. For example, if I like watching movie, I can allow myself to go and watch movie. Or if I like to spend time with my friends, then I'll allow to go and spend time with my friends. Or if I like to eat some things which is not permitted by my dietitian, still I can eat that in a small amount as a reward. So self punishment could also be possible, like if I fail to follow my diet or my exercise routine, or if I consume tobacco or I smoke cigarette, then I should punish myself by donating some amount of money to the another person. That could be a financial punishment, but we need to involve the punishment aspect and the reward aspects into our treatment plan as well. Okay, then self-structuring, cognitive restructuring is a very important part. Means we need to modify our behavior, which really have a very important influence on we need to modify our cognition, which really have an important influence on our behavior. You may see this example in the message printed and pasted in public transport buses, like we say की आजचा दिवस शून्य अपघाताचा, किंवा आपला उद्दिष्ट एका लिटर मध्ये 4 किलोमीटर. So what it says, like when you have a positive framing of a message, when you have a positive conversation with you, like I can do it, okay, I just need to resist this temptation for next 5 minutes or next 10 minutes, yes, I can engage into this exercise for next 10 minutes. Okay, that really helps you to fight with the poor health habits. Okay, so we need to make some statements which we call coping cards. Coping cards could be created and that could be pasted in a different places in our home, right in front of our eyesight, so that we frequently see them, read them, and start thinking about them, believing about them. And yes, that could be possible. Like saying like, oh, it's possible for me to quit the smoking. I can quit the smoking. Okay, it's possible for me to reduce my weight. I can eat the food without sugar. Okay, all these statements, affirmations can actually lead to a lot of motivation in the people. Behavior experiments is a wonderful technique. Means, for example, we engage the people into some exercises. So we need to encourage the people to follow the diet. So what could be the best way? Ask the same person to go out and conduct a workshop, encourage the people to follow the diet. It will be very difficult for the person to go out and convince the other people if he himself is not convinced, if he himself is not following that. So these kind of exercises, when the people go out and conduct a workshop, that actually increase their motivation to follow that thing by themselves. So all these are the techniques that we can use to modify the poor health habits. I hope I have shared quite a few things and the techniques with you that you can find useful while working with the students, and I'm sure that you're going to use these techniques when you're going to work with your students to when you're modifying their poor health habits. Thank you very much. See you again. Bye.